Change your heart, change your life, change the planet. Hey everybody, it's Tim Van Orden coming to you from Woodford State Park in Woodford, Vermont, where I'm out on one of my last big boot runs of the year. There's still quite a bit of snow here, but we're going to get some more rain this week, and it's going to do a lot of damage to it. And with the warmer weather, it's going away pretty quick. And you might ask, why do I come up here to Woodford to go for a run rather than go down to Bennington where I live, not go anywhere, just walk outside my door and run in temperatures that are 10 degrees warmer and not have to deal with the snow? And my answer is this: because this is more like real life. And what I mean by that is that we live in worlds that are sanitized, that are explained, meaning flattened, physically, visually, and intellectually. I don't need to wonder for a long period of time about something anymore. I can look it up on Wikipedia. I can watch a video on YouTube. Suddenly my question is answered and I move on. And it doesn't really sink in. It doesn't really take on real value in my life. And same with running on a paved road or even a really smooth path, is that there are really no obstacles. It's easy. I can just set myself in motion like a metronome and move forward however long I want. But up here, as you can probably see, every few steps I'm sinking into the snow. Some steps are firm and other steps I punch through. And that's real life. That's what human beings evolved in. Environments that are unpredictable, that are unstable, and that are not flat, sanitized, or controlled. They are what they are. They evolve in a way that brings things to their lowest energy state. And when things are in a lowest energy state, they're not weak, they're not lazy, they are tough, they are strong, they are resilient, because they're using very little energy to be in that state, and they've been beaten that way by natural selection and the molecular storm of existence, which we don't get to see on a macroscopic scale, but on the scale of chemistry, the molecular storm, or the constant chaotic movement and bombardment of molecules, beats things into shape, beats things into a low energy state. Molecules get beaten, proteins get beaten until they take a shape where they can't be beaten down any further. And that's my life now. That's my practice. That's how I use depression and training like this in the midst of depression. Right now, going through, I'd say, one of the top 5 depressions that I've had in my life. And yet here I am, out running in snow, where every step is annoying to me. Right there, my legs just slid out to the side. That's annoying. And my consciousness, my ego, my identity doesn't like that, because I don't feel powerful. I don't feel strong. I don't feel like a U.S. snowshoe champion. I feel like a guy who is incapable of running because his legs keep coming out from under him. And that's why I'm here. I'm here to teach this guy a lesson in a very gentle, loving way. And that lesson is not that ego or identity are bad, not that they're wrong, not that I need to overcome them or get rid of them, but simply that they serve a particular purpose, and outside of that purpose, they get us into trouble. So what is the purpose of the ego, of the identity? To every now and then fly up in a balloon and look down on the landscape and see if there's some greater insight that can be achieved from looking at the forest rather than looking at the trees, from looking at the run rather than looking at what I'm running on in this moment. Or as David Allen would say in Getting Things Done, what's this look like from 40,000 feet? And that's useful. The ego, the identity, gets us to set goals. And that's a good thing. It gets us motivated. But where it goes wrong is when it gets attached to the result of that goal. And when it starts to micromanage the process, where it starts to try to control every step along the way. The ego's job is not to take the steps. My identity, right there, that was a tough one, that pushed me backwards. My identity wants to look at the steps and see how each one somehow defines me. Because if the steps aren't going well, I'm not going to reach that goal. I'm not going to be celebrated in the way that I need to. And my belief of self is going to be inconsistent with my reality, which is going to cause two things to happen. Number one, I live in a delusion where I'm completely disconnected with the world around me. I'm completely disconnected with the people around me. And I'm in constant conflict, either with myself or with others or with just natural phenomenon. That doesn't go so well. This is what the Buddha referred to as samsara, the cycle of suffering, or the experience of suffering, which is dukkha. And we essentially cover ourselves with dukkha or with dukkhi whenever we let the ego, the identity, the narrative that we're constantly running, whenever we put it in the central dominant position of our lives and say everything always has to conform to this story, to my beliefs, to my rank, to my position in the group. And that's why I do this, because I'm constantly reminded that the steps are where action takes place. The steps are where life is lived. And in a real world, not the fabricated worlds that we spend much of our lives in, but in the world that human beings evolved in, that didn't cut it. This identity, this ego, this suffering that we now experience on such a grand scale in most cultures is a new phenomenon, I believe. Because if we were functioning in a world like I am now, you can't afford to have that kind of ego. You'll give up. You'll stop. You'll say, this sucks. I hate this. Why am I doing this? I don't ever want to do this again. I'm no good at this. Which Carol Dweck calls a fixed mindset, where one wants to believe that it has a fixed set of skills and capabilities, and it never wants them challenged. Because if they're challenged, then it can't believe what it believes about itself. So a fixed mindset doesn't believe in growth. A fixed mindset believes that you've got what you've got, and that's it. Whereas what she calls a growth or incremental mindset is more like what I'm taking on in my life, where, okay, this may not be fun, this may not be easy, this may be challenging my belief in my abilities, but that's good because there's growth there. If my beliefs are challenged, that means my beliefs must not be accurate. If my competence is challenged, well, then maybe I'm not as competent as I'd like to believe. So I come here and I do this, and I put myself in situations that knock me down, that throw me to the side, that disrupt my story, that disrupt my illusion of self. And when I'm out here long enough, eventually the world shows up because my story shuts up. Because my story realizes, or another part of my brain, the medial prefrontal cortex, comes to the conclusion that, okay, this is not the time for the story tool. This is not the place to engage the story tool or to engage the identity tool. This is the place to soak up the world. This is the place to be connected. This is the place to become a process and to realize that there really is no separation except for the separation that the brain creates. And right now, I don't really need that. And it starts to feel really good. And the thing that annoyed me when I started this run begins to be the thing that delights me and fills me and engages me and makes me approach as the run progresses. So I start the run wanting to withdraw. I start the run feeling closed off. I start the run with very little possibility. But by challenging myself or having the world challenge me as I try to move through it, that self-tool eventually gives up. It stops. The narrative stops. The rumination stops. The depression stops. And suddenly everything else shows up. That narrow focus relaxes and begins to widen. And it's like, wow, wait a minute. I'm not the most important thing in the world. In fact, there is a world out there. I didn't even see the world because I was so focused on me. Not because I'm a bad person or a selfish person, but because I have a human brain. And once that self-tool gets put back in the toolbox and the medial prefrontal cortex starts humming along and I become mindful in motion, then wow, the world just keeps getting bigger and bigger and bigger and more interesting. And I no longer need to finish this run at a particular pace. I no longer need this run to have significance inside of my goals. I want to do really well at this race. When I started the run, that was important. When I thought about doing the run, that was important. But now that I'm out here, I could care less what this run might mean. Because what it does mean right now is far more important, far more valuable. And what it means right now is that all that negativity, all that suffering, all that confusion, all that blackness, it's gone. And it's been replaced by the world. And I'm in love with the world right now. And I love you. And I'll see you soon. Bye. I went in like 15 inches there.